Hey guys, how's it going? So we're here again for Ask Scott episode 9? 9! D-Mac's giving me 9 behind the camera. 9, Scott! We can talk about this before. We can talk literally 5 seconds before we hit record. And as soon as I say we're here for episode, just disappears from my mind. I've just got such a bad memory. So we're here for episode 9. Have I got any news? I have got some news. Danny Mo Morris is releasing a new course into the academy over at scottsbasslessons.com at the end of this month. So just heads up everybody, this is the second time we've had somebody come into the academy to do a course. Chris May was the first. Hey Chris, who is the luthier behind Overwater Basses. He did a whole course on how to set up your bass. How we going to call him, Demo there, Danny Mo, who's one of the longest serving faculty members at Berklee College of Music. He has done a course in R&B bass, so looking at like James Jamerson vibes, you know, the kind of thing, and that's coming at the end of this month. So if you haven't checked out the academy over at Scott's Bass Lessons yet, make sure you shoot over to scottsbasslessons.com and check it out because it is awesome. Let's get on with the questions. Let's check them out. David asks, what do you personally do to expand your soloing vocabulary? Ooh, that's a good question. Soloing vocabulary. So vocabulary, if anybody's like, what the heck is vocabulary? Vocabulary is just like vocabulary when we speak. It's the same thing. You're in a situation, you meet somebody at a friend's house, you're like, oh, hey, so-and-so, you know, oh, is your name Steve? Or, you know, you've got sort of like general vocabulary that just pops into your head and it just comes out of your mouth and you don't really think about it. And soloing vocabulary and bass vocabulary, just bass line vocabulary, is exactly the same. We see a chord type, you know, it could be a C major, it could be a D minor, and we have vocabulary that we can use over that chord type. So for instance, if it was a D minor, okay, so I see a D minor, and I think, okay, well, I've got, you know, certain vocabulary that I can use over there. I've got, now don't get me wrong, these aren't licks, because a lick is something you play exactly the same every time, okay? And just like when we're speaking, our intonation of what we're saying changes all the time. We don't open the door and go, hello Steve, how you doing? Hello Steve, how you doing? Okay, we open the door if we're in a good mood, we're like, hey Steve, how you doing? We're in a bad mood, we open the door, right Steve, how you doing? You know, like it changes all the time, and this is just exactly the same. We're saying the same thing, but we're saying it in different ways. So for instance, let's just take this line for instance. Now that is just a simple line that fits over a D minor. But I could play it like this. And then I'd travel on into something else. But I'm starting it off like this. It's the same line at the beginning. I could also start it like this. Same line. I could start it like this. Yeah? Same line. Oh. So, and what I'm doing there is I'm just varying the way of playing the line. So, and to push it even further, then you can start mixing up the order of the notes, okay? So instead of playing, you could play. So that's, you're using the same phrase shape, but you're just mixing the order of the notes up a little bit. Instead of playing. Or you could play it backwards. So that was just that tiny little phrase, and everything you play is like this, you know, which is why I could give somebody a major scale, you know, who's never improvised before, and even if they could play a major scale, it in no way means they can do this. You know, that's just all major scale. Doesn't mean they can do that. I can do that because I've worked on them phrases. Those phrases have sunk into my vocabulary, and I can pull them out when I need to. So how do I work on that? Playing a lot, transcribing a lot, getting other phrases that really do it for you. If you hear Chet Baker play something on the trumpet and you're like, oh man, that sounds beautiful, grab your bass, you know, find out what it is, and then practice it over and over and over again. And you'll hear sort of like, a lot of people say, you know, you get a phrase and then you practice that phrase in 12 keys. I've never done it like that, so I can't tell you if that works or not. I can't see it doing any harm. You know, if and that would be, you know, like a phrase like, you know, going through the circle of fifths with a certain phrase. I think that is more useful when you're playing an instrument like trumpet or sax, because you're having to think of the notes, whereas on bass it's a very geometrical instrument, so you just copying the shape, you know. So I don't know if there's a lot of mileage in that. I'm sure we have our own that we can figure out that will really make us think a lot harder. So as far as like vocabulary, just transcribing a ton and getting those phrases that really do it for me, getting that on the bass, and then practice them in different ways and trying to slot them into solos and just that kind of thing, you know. It's really, really great. And also for anybody watching this and you're like, oh, I don't want to know about soloing, the exact same is true for bass lines. Bass line vocabulary, it's something you need to know, right? So like it's in C major, you know. This here, you know, these notes here, that's just like standard vocabulary. Going up to the third, that's standard vocabulary. Using the fifth, you know, that's just standard vocabulary. So it doesn't just apply to solos, it applies to bass lines as well, and just, you know, guitar music. You have to build that vocabulary, and you do that by learning what other people are doing and taking that and using it for yourself, you know, using it on your own, getting it into your playing. Cheers, great question. Yusef asks, can you talk a bit about compositions, or for instance the way you compose? Great question, man. I am really melody driven. So you can be, there's different ways of composing, there's like tons of different ways, but I'm really melody driven. So personally what I do is try and come up with a melody to start with and then fit chords to that melody. So for instance, let's come up with a melody here. Okay. Right, and this is totally off the top of my head, right? I'm just checking them, you know. I haven't done, you know, and it might sound crap in a minute. So I'll be like, I told you. So that's like a simple melody. So and I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, okay, so it's like from the F major scale. There. So, and then I'm like, okay, so I've got a melody. Let's experiment with some chords and see what that sounds like. Okay, so obviously the F major is going to work over that. What would work over this chord? An E minor would work over it. You know, so it'll give it a different suspended kind of sound. let's try it again. Try some other chords. So instead of the F major, let's try A minor. E flat major. And I'm thinking about what I'm doing here is the resolving note. That ba ba da dee da dee da. I'm thinking, okay, that could be the minor third of a chord. It could be the major third of a chord. It could be the major seventh of a chord. You know, I'm just messing around here. It could be the flat seven of a chord. That sounds like lovely, actually. Yeah. So what else could it be? So that's essentially what I'm doing. I'm thinking, and I'm always thinking, okay, what key is it in? Ish. It's like in F major. But what happens if I want to use some chords that aren't in F major, just like when I used D flat major? You know, and that's all I do. I come up with a melody and then I mess around with the chords. So if you listen to that, this was a tune that I composed last year, and I'm thinking F minor. You know, that D flat major 7 sharp 11 would sound great on there. And then that becomes like a major third. So I'm trying to like reharmonize this as I go along, just completely off the top of my head. So just think melody and then try and fit chords. When the notes that you land on, think, okay, well, what is that going to be in the chord? Is it going to be a minor third, major third, flat 7, 6, 13? You know, what is it going to be in that chord? Assign a chord to it and just see what it sounds like. And obviously, if you know your diatonic theory as well, like all the chords of the major scale, you should be thinking that at the same time, but it doesn't mean you have to fit in that. It doesn't have to fit in that all the time. You can come away from that and it'll sound great. And that's how I do it, just trial and error and, just searching for something that sounds cool. Cheers, man. Branislav asks, did teaching music improve or affect your skills in any way? Oh yeah, like huge, like completely. When I began to teach, it just blew the roof off. My bass playing really, because it made me look at it in a really analytical way and made me look at why things that were working, how to understand them, how to, the more you can explain why something happens, the better that you actually have to know it yourself. The more, internally you really start to understand it, because you have to, you can't be kind of a little bit wafty around the edges, a bit floaty, a bit sort of like, it's kind of this kind of thing, because that's, doing an injustice to who you're teaching. You need to be like, this is why that works, and when you understand something really well, that helps you as well, with your own progression. So when I started teaching, and I've been teaching for years, like I started teaching when I was 16, I think. Before I started playing, I was teaching guitar before I played bass even. And that helped hugely. And with the whole, and creating online courses and things like that, that makes you think it just makes you think completely differently about what you're doing, because you really have to like get in depth, and be able to get the message over in a really coherent way so people understand it, and there's a real art to that, and the better that you can do it or I can do it, the better I understand it for myself. So all my silly analogies that I use, all of them help me, they really help me become a better bass player every day, thinking about these analogies and how to describe certain concepts and stuff to you guys. Yeah, so I should be thanking you. I should be like, thanks a lot, guys, for just, helping me become a better bass player. So yeah, let's take the next question. Raymond asks, how about inverting double stops or sliding chords? Okay, great question, man. And we've just released a full 6-hour course into the Academy over at Scott's Bass Lessons as well. So if you haven't already, go check out the Academy. It's super epic, and the course is, full of this kind of stuff. So double stops, yeah. So I'm in C here, so I'm playing root in third, root minor third, root minor third. But what happens if you invert them? And I love doing this. So you have the root, but the major third down bottom, the root, the minor third down the bottom, the root, the minor third down the bottom. It sounds absolutely beautiful. And this is a great way as well to really be able to use the lower register of the bass in a way that you can play open sounding chords that don't sound mushy, because we are at a disadvantage straight away playing bass, because we're playing the low register. Even here it's pretty low, right? So we get mushy chords really easily, but we can play triads in different inversions down here by inverting the thirds. So for instance, this is an F major triad, F major, G minor, A minor. They're triads, but look at the inversions, look at how I'm voicing them. I've got the root and the third down low on the E string. I've got the root, the third down low, and the third down low, and I'm just putting the fifth on the top. So you get beautiful inversions right down here on the bottom of the bass that don't sound like this. Sounds like crap, doesn't it? You want this? Sounds beautiful. So yeah, I use inverted double stops all the time. Thanks for the question, man. Matthias asks, hey Scott, when did you decide to share your experiences on YouTube? What is the personal story behind scottsbasslessons.com as a learning platform, and when did you recognise that things were starting to happen? Wow, big question. Denmark is laughing behind the camera because he knows that's a big question and probably a big answer as well. Why did I start Scott's Bass Lessons? It was to do with my illness. I've got focal dystonia, which is a neurological movement disorder, which is why I wear the gloves on my left hand all the time, and then sometimes on the right hand as well. If I take them off, you'll see that I'm actually not moving my fingers there at all. It does it a little bit with my my right hand, but that's my hand relaxed. I'm actually not moving it at all. But obviously when I put the glove on, it does it a little bit, but a lot less. Yeah, so it's like a movement disorder. I had to stop playing because it got so bad before I discovered the gloves. It got so bad that I had to stop playing altogether, and I couldn't even play major scale for like a few months. And then slowly got back into it, found the gloves, I was like easing myself back into playing. I was just looking at YouTube and just thought, there's a load of guys playing riffs on there, but nobody actually telling people how to play bass or be a musician, how to construct bass lines, how to construct solos, how does all that make sense? What do the actual sort of like the real stuff, that can make you a better bass player and musician. Nobody was doing that. I thought I'll stick a few videos online, just self-gratification. I wasn't really gigging that much back then. I had sort of like I had to take 6 months off, and this all happened in those 6 months. I took 6 months off, and in that time I was like, I'll put some YouTube lessons on, and I got great feedback, and I was just like totally like selfishly, I was like, that made me feel so good. I'm going to put some more on there, and then it snowballed, and then I started playing professionally again. It was fine. Learned about the gloves and how to control the disorder that I've got, and But at the same time, I found this real love for, you know, recording lessons and things like that. It snowballed. And I did it for just over a year. My wife was like, is this going to work? And I was like, I think so. I don't know. And then it was just after a year mark. I'd done it for a year. And it was probably about 14, 15 months in that I actually discovered, I was like, oh, actually, I know how to make this work. And that's when it really started to take off. But I really, like, it was baby steps. I can remember sitting in front of YouTube watching tutorial after tutorial after tutorial about how to create a WordPress website. I can remember trying to learn how to embed a YouTube video in a WordPress website. Like, that took me probably hours, and it's just so easy, you just do it. But I just put so many hours into learning how to do it. And that's really, so like after that 14, 15 month mark, that's when it really started to take off. And then after that, I'm kind of like a bull in a china shop. I was just like, head down, let's do this. And then I just fell in love with it. I've just fallen in love with it. I love helping people. I love getting the feedback from people saying that I'm helping them out. It's the best thing in the world. I could have never, ever dreamt of anything like this ever happening in my life. I just thought I was just going to be, you know, just a bass player forever, you know, and it is what I am really at my true core. Is I'm just a bass player, a musician, and it's what I love more than anything in the world. But Scott's Bass Lessons is just like this thing that I just think about it all the time. It's just amazing. Absolutely love it. And love all you guys for making it possible, because cheesily, I know it sounds cheesy, but without everybody, you know, watching these videos and stuff like that and click like, without everybody, you know, sharing it with their friends and things, it just would cease to exist and wouldn't have happened. So just a massive shout out to everybody that has made this happen. It's not just me at all. It's all you guys as well. So thanks for the question. So on that emotional note, before I start crying and like, oh, thank you guys, I'm gonna leave you to go to the shed and pick up your bass. If you have a question that you want answered in next week's episode, just leave a comment below this video. If you're on the website scottsbasslessons.com, just leave it below. And if you're over on YouTube, again, just leave it below. I'll be in there checking them all out with my team, and we'll be picking some out and answering them in the next episode. And over the last few weeks, I've done a question of the day as well. Question of the day, let me think. Okay, question of the day. What is your favourite dinner? Right, what's your favourite ultimate meal? Mine personally, it's got to be, I know this sounds really, really unimaginative, but I love it, right? Sausage, egg, and fries. I love sausage, egg, and fries. Close second, pepperoni pizza. Let me know below. See you in a bit. Take it easy. I'll see you in the shed.